I've lived 1,000 lives. I've piloted 1,000 souls. I've killed and fought and died just for another role. This is the Happy Jacks RPG podcast, a roundtable discussion that's a mix of friendship, humor, unbridled enthusiasm, and tabletop RPG topics sent in from around the world. Just for another role. Hello,
Hey!
and welcome to season 35, episode 12 of the Happy Jacks RPG podcast. My name is Kimmy.
I'm Artem.
In today's episode, Alvarant asks about prepping for a game before the rules show up. Mike from New York State shares how he got into gaming. And Chris from New Jersey asks about how to give NPCs life. Please share if you want to add a topic or question to the show. You can email us at happyjacksrpg@gmail.com. That's happyjacksrpg@gmail.com. Or you can leave a topic or question or story or whatever you kind of want in the mailbag channel of our Discord, which is at happyjacks.org/Discord.
And
Yeah.
Kimmy, just wanted to point out, we are currently Mo's invisible.
Oh, right. Okay.
But Mo is here.
Mo's here.
There's Mo.
Mo's here.
Hey!
I hit the wrong thing. So yeah, we could definitely use your emails and topics and content right now. So please send it in, whether you want to do it in the Discord or by email. Either way is great. Please do the thing.
Just call.
Do it. Okay. All right. Let's see. Patreons. We have officially switched. We are now on our monthly subscription. I've said it a couple times now. But hopefully you know that. And we are still grandfathered into our original rate, so that's great. So instead of having the new jacked up Patreon percentage being taken from us, they still take our very, very low, we signed up for Patreon a million years ago rate. So it's equitable or lower than most of the other percentages taken from other platforms that have fan support creators. So
We'll take the win. Yay.
Yeah.
Thank you, Patreon.
Something's better than nothing these days.
Absolutely. And yeah, it's not as bad as it could be. I mean, we don't love everything about Patreon, but it actually, for what we do, it's one of the better platforms, especially because of that grandfathered rate. Don't forget, right now, May is when our next game days is happening. And Verk really, really wants me to remind you that the voting for picking the day of game days for May is happening right now. So if you go to happyjacks.org/Discord, or if you're on the Discord already, if you go to the May game days, spelled D-A-Z-E because I think I'm hilarious, you can go and vote on which of the weekends in May the game days will happen. So
It's spelled the cool way.
the cool way.
It is.
Z.
Rough days, man.
Yeah, but yeah, let your voice be
Enjoy.
heard. We want to know what you want to play.
Yeah, there's a whole bunch of them. Last one
And
went
when
amazing.
do you want to play it?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. The last one went great. I think there were 9 or 10 games that happened. It was super fun. And a bunch of people are already voting for the next one. So go make your voice be heard. Indie Designer of the Month. We have a new Indie Designer of the Month. It is now April. Yay, April.
Yay.
April.
Wow,
Our
I can't
Indie
believe
Designer
it's
of
April.
the
Oh my
Month
God.
is Jess Gare. They from Wannabe Games. Jess is a wonderful queer designer who spends huge amounts of time really supporting other indie designers. She has helped with the IDGN, the Indie Game Designers Network, a whole bunch. She held office there. She just she's one of those designers who works to raise the tide and lift all boats with the very small amount of spare time she has left. And
I know designers like that.
Oh, really?
Jess and I are of a type. Yeah, we are good friends, and we reach out to each other when we need support. Of hey, I don't think I'm doing enough. No, you're doing enough, hon. You're fine. But anyway, yeah, she's a great friend and an amazing designer.
Awesome.
You can find her work at wannabegames.itch.io or by searching for it on DriveThruRPG, Wannabe Games, and you can find her at Jawska, I don't know what it stands for. JAWSKA at Blue Sky. I don't know. I'm sure.
Jaws K.A. Interesting.
Or Jaws Ka. I don't know.
Jaws K.
I don't know.
Jaska.
Or jaw ska, like
Jaw ska.
Oh
like
yeah,
the ska music, but
yeah.
something to do with your jaw.
I don't.
Phew. Listeners, write in.
Yeah.
Yes.
Jessica's gonna be like, hello, we've been friends forever. And it's like those people who spend a bit, like me,
Right,
for
right.
example, who spend a bunch for like a vanity license plate, and people are like, what? What? I'm like, never mind. I thought it was hilarious.
Exactly.
Don't worry
Fine.
about it.
Leave it alone.
It was cute when I was in high school.
Right. Yeah.
Let me take over for you, Kimmy, and catch your breath.
No, I'm
Uh,
okay.
today's
No,
today's product is called The Means of Magic. The Means of Magic is a tabletop RPG set in the aftermath of the Magic Industrial Revolution. Megacorps are vying for control of the economy by extracting mass amounts of magic from the Earth, which is slowly killing the planet. Where'd you get this? This is truly inspired and original.
it's very cool. Yeah.
That's very cool.
Players will have to face off against magic natural disasters, corrupted flora and fauna, and the insidious corporations themselves. Your characters will do what they can to protect themselves, their loved ones, and their homes from their destruction of the megacorps. They will live under the systems while also fighting against it as best they can. Your characters are capable of doing amazing things. Maybe while you play, you can discover what you're capable of too.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. So the rules for this are, so what's included when you buy it? The rules for the pay system, a system that pushes characters to their breaking points and then gives them narrative freedom. A setting that casts the players as underdogs fighting against the mega corporations in a world at the brink of catastrophe. Whew. Getting feels on this one today. Getting feels.
So novel and inspired.
It's a documentary role playing.
Magical documentary. Quick modular magic rules that allow you to cast any way you want to.
Cool.
A robust and dynamic social system that supports roleplay using reputations and skills, and detailed support for the narrator to help them facilitate their campaign, which is honestly one of the most overlooked things usually in game books. I will be the first to say so. And it is available, for $20 at wannabegames.itch.io. I wrote the thing, but it's wrong.
This
$20.
sounds rad. I mean, honestly, this
It really does.
I think this would go really well with like the Story Games crew over
Story Games LA.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. And it is very cool. It's a very interesting system, and I forget exactly how she did the magic system, but I remember when like talking it over with her and just being like, oh, that's so cool. Like the modular nature of it is very neat. So definitely go check it out if using magic to fight against mega corporations hits home for you right now. And maybe be inspired to take other action. All right. Mailbag number 1. Why don't you read this one also, Mo, and then we'll read the other ones.
For sure. Hello, Jackers crew. Last year, I joined a Kickstarter for the D6 second edition game, and the PDFs are expected soon. I want to run a space campaign using the system. My question is, without knowing the rules or the quirks of the system, how far can I go in preparing for the campaign so when the rules are released, I can start sooner? Drink, Alvarent.
Okay, so this I think is the D6. I don't know if it's Star Wars specific. I don't think the Kickstarter is actually Star Wars specific, but it's a reprint of the D6 game, and it's being done right now by Gallant Knight Games. Ellen over at Gallant Knight Games. They do like the tiny D6 games. Friend of the show, and also hangs out with us at Strategicon, where he also has a booth sometimes that is ours and also next to ours. He sometimes has his stuff at our co-op booth. I love this system. I haven't played in a really long time, but it captured Star Wars really, really well for me. It's like a visceral memory. I can't remember the details of it, but I remember loving it, and I remember loving like its balance of grit with like deadliness, just like feeling right for Star Wars. And I think it wouldn't be for all Kickstarter games.
Okay.
Because Dave has a very interesting story about this, which I will like try and parse in a minute. But what Dave did is he promised he was going to run the new Alien system by Free League at one of the Strategicons. He was like, made a promise, he was going to do it, and Dave takes promises very seriously. Like
I played in that game.
Yeah. For all Dave's like joking and stuff like that, he is such a Boy Scout at heart. Like the only
Amazing.
person who's more of a paladin than Dave is his son, or maybe
Uh,
like
amazing.
Sure.
the most paladin. But they kept delaying it because he like backed it, and it was he thought he would get the
Oh,
PDF,
right.
and
Yeah.
it kept getting delayed. It kept getting delayed. It kept getting delayed. He was like, "Oh God!" And then it wasn't going to end up in
Oh.
time. So he ended up running like a spin on it that was like he used um, the what's their big free league title? My
Tales from the Loop.
Tales from the Loop. Thank you. My
Yeah,
brain.
yeah.
I'm like picturing the cover. Everything but the name is on the cover in my
That's
brain.
right. Yeah.
And so he did a tweak on that.
Mm-hmm.
But the rules didn't come in time, and he couldn't prep it. So he did like an Alien game with the Tales from the Loop rules.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's the first thing. Like, start prepping all the world stuff around mechanics. I think.
Yeah, I think that's the place where I go to. I mean, look, I'm learning a lot about systems. I'm still kind of I feel very new to the hobby, and I'm learning new things all the time. So for me, I'm like very much mood and vibe 1st,
Mm-hmm.
and I like to ask myself questions like, I was just actually I posted this the Discord. I had like a crazy setting that was like somebody was really brilliantly pointed it out, but I had this like setting in mind that I was just like I was inspired by the bestiary in D&D or something, and I was reading something that had a lot to do with demons and devils, and I was like, okay, cool. Here's what if our setting was the inside of a giant intergalactic rotting corpse.
Right, right, right,
You
right.
know, like I was just thinking like sensory things, right? Like I want the smells, I want the tactile things, and then but the idea of like, well, what story happens within this setting is like, oh, that seems to be like step 12, 25, whatever. It's like so far from like what the drama is going to be.
Right.
So, and someone actually in the Discord brought up like, oh, I wouldn't make it an intergalactic being. I would make it like smaller. I would make it a little bit more tactile, so that characters could really feel like, oh, now we're in the belly button of the beast. Now we're in the chest cavity. Like something so they could physically feel like they belong somewhere.
Yeah.
So I think there's something about that I thought was I forget who was it. Was a Graph on Discord that pointed, but it was just like I was like, yeah, that's a really smart. Like a really smart observation. Like, yeah, sure. If you're doing space, you want to do galaxies, all this stuff, right? Like, you could. I mean, there's a lot of good supplements out there for just creating system agnostic things. Like recently, I backed something that just actually came in called the Perilous Void, which was
Mm.
created by the guy who wrote Perilous Wilds. Was it Lumpley? Mo, you know these. You know
Yeah,
this
yeah,
crew,
yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and it's really cool. But it's got like tables upon tables about like create the cosmos, the
Right,
universe, the solar
right.
system. It's so you could really go big. But I would sort of recommend sort of saying, well, cool. Do you want to tell a story in which somebody's heart gets broken? Oh,
That that
okay.
that part,
You
that
know what I
part.
mean? Like, all right. Like, do you want to tell a story where it's factions that are vying for, or do you want to tell a story where people are exploring an area? And so, like, that I think starts to change how you're going to interact with the world. And I think
Right.
a lot of that you can prep outside of the system. I find that when I'm excited about exploration, and then suddenly then I'll start looking for a system that matches that closer. What gives me more tools for exploring or makes exploration like more exciting or something. Yeah, so that's kind of like the way I approach it. It really is like I usually come up with concepts and settings first, and then go, okay, what system maps to this
Right.
Yeah.
the most effortlessly?
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
that's exactly where I was going, and I have a long, and I'll try to keep it brief answer, and then a very short answer. I think you really need to think about what kind of game you want to run. Do you want to run a game where everybody's connections are important? Because you can port in all of these other resources, all mechanical kind of tidbits from other games, like just having a relationship, bonds. Um, you can think about using clocks from PBTA. I think everything should be about clocks. Um,
Really?
I think some dice systems are inherently pessimistic and some dice systems are inherently optimistic. So I think PBTA tends to run a little more optimistically, and this is kind of dice roll plus attribute. So maybe D6 is more optimistic. I think Fortune in the Dark runs a little pessimistic with its dice pools. And so no matter how many dice you roll, if you're the highest number on all the dice is a 3, you fail. you know.
Right. So
Um,
how do you prep for that if you don't know what the
a-
system's going to be?
so there's a certain point where if you really want to be prepared to bake whatever you want to bake before the groceries show up, you know, um, just realize it could get weird, and just make sure that your people are along for the ride with you. And that is my long petering first idea. My second idea is go get D6 first edition.
Yeah.
Oh.
That was gonna be my next
Okay.
question. Like there'll probably be some changes, but yeah, you check
It'll
out.
probably be very similar.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like you could find it. Like it's not around too much, but I think there's enough places on the internet where it's probably saved in like
Right.
PDF form or something that you could probably find at least somebody talking about it, so that they like discussion on forums and stuff, so you get the basic mechanic ideas even if you can't find a copy of it. I think that would be kind of the first go-to for me. Like I know that's not available um for all systems too. Like this advice I feel like can go for a lot of people. Like we all, not all of us, but many of us kickstart games. I kickstart way too many games.
All the time.
Yeah, all the time. My friends are like looking and they're like, you've backed like over 100 things on Kickstarter. It's like, yeah.
Yeah.
It's not even more. That's not even half of what some of my friends have backed.
I was literally messaging somebody on Discord just this week about I'm trying to I'm going through withdrawal because I feel like I need to back more Kickstarters, but I'm actually actively trying to pause a little
A
bit.
little bit. It's hard right after Zine Quest. Like,
Yeah, that's right. Oh my god.
But yeah, so I feel like there's, especially for second edition stuff, you can look at first edition and at least glean some understanding of it. Because even when a company takes over, like if you look at One Ring second edition, which Free League put out, like there's still, if you look at One Ring first edition, which is put out by a totally different company many years prior, so it's kind of a similar situation to the D6 system. There's still through lines you can see in the mechanics. A lot of them have been tweaked really heavily, but I could still have looked at like the old rules and kind of gotten some feeling for it. So yeah, definitely do that.
The Kickstarter made a lot of money, so I assume that they want to meet people's expectations and not piss a lot of people off.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. Yeah. That feels like the correct vibe.
Yeah.
And as we should all aspire to do.
Not piss people off.
Piss people off or disappoint them.
Yes.
Yeah, I love that point also, Kimmy, is like just do a little bit of research to sort of give you a bit of a leg up in that sense. To that point, I also think that from what I understand of it, it is a system that probably leans more into like big sweeping adventurous kind of like experiences.
Yeah.
And I think so like that, right, like you can kind of make your journey of prep a little bit simplified and you go, okay, when I think that, what are my like cultural touch points? Like, do I think about Star Wars? Do I think about, Fireflies and Babylon 5s? Like, do we think about these sweeping things, like, okay, so what did those properties do?
Yeah.
Like that, there's a way to prepare there. But I wonder if this question is also asking about, I guess asking about like, for me, when I think about this, I also think about like the style or like the modality of play. Like I remember I made this like hack of kids on bikes recently called Parents in Minivans that I'm still messing around with, and Mo helped me incorporate some good clock.
Is there a soccer mom playbook?
Yeah, for sure. Well, I mean, see, the reason I'm bringing it up is that the thing that I was really inspired by in kids on bikes, and I had only played it a little bit and was reading through the rules, but the thing that really moved me, and I was watching some actual plays, is that the way that it leans into like narrative descriptions what you have, because you succeed by 3, and that means you barely made it. But you succeed by 5 points, you're making it. You got out of there in time with time to spare. Mm-hmm. You succeed by 10 points, you're making it look effortless, right? And I think, oh, great. So like asking people to lean into, hey, describe how well you did at something,
right?
And that's an interesting style of play because it's not a 1-to-1. Like it's not necessarily a binary where you succeeded or not. You're kind of inviting them to create these grander cinematic moments, and that like mode of play, I think that kind of asks you to go, okay, well, so my players are going to be describing, what are they going to be describing? Are they describing action scenes? Are they going to describe NPC reactions? So like that's an interesting way to also think about what you're prepping, because you're just thinking about what kind of experience do I want my players to have.
Yeah.
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 I
And
think,
again,
yeah.
that goes back to what kind of story are you telling? Like, are we talking about like the margin of victory or defeat, or are we talking about, um, the epicness of it all?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I think that really looking at like obviously the original system was kind of geared towards sci-fi stuff. We are kind of already talked about that. I don't know what Alan's plans are. I looked at the Kickstarter. I think I backed it. I backed so many, but I can't remember if it was more of a generic system or specific for sci-fi still. But it really does like the mechanics affect that so much. Like if you're gonna run Star Trek, that's very different than Star Wars.
Yep.
Mhm.
Star Wars and Firefly are kind of the same vibe.
Mhm.
You can like use the same base mechanics for stuff like that. Especially for a system that is more task and combat focused, like the original D6 system was.
Mhm.
Like if you have a system that's not focused on that, then you have a little bit more wiggle room with what kind of sci-fi you pick. But the how deadly things are, what kind of weapons are available, things like that, really really impact sci-fi more than it would a general like sword and sorcery type change in setting. I think
Mhm.
personally,
Right.
as someone who's thought a lot about that.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, that's it's funny. I was actually just recently thinking about your wonderful game, Starscape, because I have a couple of folks that have backed it and are sort of like are excited about it, and we we're just chatting about it recently. And I love, like, for example, like that, like in terms of prepping, there's something really just to shower you in compliments. There's something really clever that I think you do in the Kickstarter, where every time you used a some kind of a movie or TV show reference, like you had a quote from a character, the word trust was
Hmm.
highlighted.
Hmm.
And that's communicating to me, the reader, what this game is really about.
Yeah.
Right.
It's not about pew pew pew. It's not about like get this alien out of my
Stealing,
chest. Right,
stealing loot.
right, right. It's not about, yeah, let's go pillage this, like
Yeah.
scavenge the spaceship that's
Yeah.
been, it is about people interacting with each other. It's
Right.
people leaning on one another. It's people betraying, trying to get back into each other's good graces, or the opposite, right? So there's something really interesting again about like, and hey, that's a space game, right? And like, but you all you need to prep probably is like, all right, let me look at a schematic of a spaceship, and like, well, if these people live in really close quarters to each other,
Right. Right. Right.
they might get really tense with one another. This is I recently texted Kimmy, was like, I'm reading Project Hail Mary by Andy Weir, and I would think you'd really love it. There's a literal segment in it where somebody talks about like, yeah, the prognosis of like what happens if people live in really close quarters for more than 90 days. Really dire.
Yeah.
People do not like that, and it's just really interesting. Like you're in this sweeping cosmos, but you're in a tiny space.
Yeah.
You feel very claustrophobic. Anyways,
Yeah.
I'm kind of getting in the weeds here, but again, like in terms of prepping, I don't know if this is super helpful what I'm saying, but it is again like whittling down to, do you want to have a game about trust, or like Mo, like you were saying, do you want to have a game about where one faction wins against another?
Yeah,
Like
exactly.
what are.
Yeah, start reaching out to the people you want to play with and start talking to them about what they want to play as well. Do they want
Session
to?
zero.
Yeah, exactly. Do they want to play a game where they don't know each other and then they all need to learn to be with each other, or have they been, in the ship a really long time together and the conflicts are kind of sort of resolved and it's more about how and if they'll stick together, or do they want to do a thing where they shoot things all the time, or are they in the middle of an intergalactic war, or are they pirates? Like picking like these big things can help you start lowering the amount of prep you have to do later, because you can start prepping that stuff now, even if you can't pick all the exact stats or whatever for everything. So
And the beautiful thing about a session zero is like you can go in with all the prep in the world, but then when the players start saying, "What can we do this?" Suddenly you're like, "Oh,
yes.
I'm gonna put all that to the side, and I have a great idea, and it'll be around your character, and it'll be character oriented, and everybody will have fun."
It'll be amazing.
Yeah, yeah.
Awesome. All right. Mailbag number 2. Would you like to read this one?
I would love to.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Mailbag number 2. Hello, Happy Jacks. I'd like to share an RPG success story, specifically how bad dice rolls on the player's part can translate into amazing drama and storytelling. I love this already. I love bad rolls. Let's get into it. Okay. I am playing in a short campaign of Dune Adventures in the Imperium from Modifius Entertainment, which uses their house 2d20 system. I'm still on the fence about 2d20 as a system, but we had an amazing session last night full of dramatic plot twists, all fed from a string of terrible dice rolls. For the unfamiliar, in 2d20 games, you build a small dice pool of d20s and want to roll under a target number, which is the sum of your stat plus skill rating. Every die that comes up equal to or less than the target is a success, and the GM sets the number of successes needed to accomplish something. Rolling a 1 counts as 2 successes, and rolling a 20 indicates a complication. Our characters are members of a minor noble house, and we are on an allied world, meeting with the leaders of the house that controlled this world, plus the leaders of another minor house. The previous session ended with the simultaneous assassination attempts on the leaders of the 3 houses. One was successful. In tonight's session, we met with the remaining leadership of the other houses to try to figure out who was behind the assassination attempts. I'm playing Nisa, a mentat, aka a human computer, who is chief advisor to our house ruler Viscount Willem, and is also our house spy master. Using my character's spy network and human computer abilities, I attempted to figure out who sent the assassins, and the GM called for a roll. I assembled a dice pool of 4 d20s, taking on 2 levels of threat, which increases danger, for 2 of those dice. I got 3 successes, but I also got 2 20s in my roll. A dire complication. We had an OOC. Sorry, what does OOC mean?
Out of character.
Oh, duh. I was like, OOC? Ook? Okay. We had an out-of-character discussion about what that meant and decided that between the threat level and the complication, the most powerful house was behind it. The Harkonnen. We then decided that retreating now would be a sign of weakness, so we pressed on with confidence. One character tried to move our agenda forward, one tried to strengthen our alliance with the house whose Marquesa was just assassinated, and one tried to find more spies. And all of our rolls were disastrous. Nobody got any successes, and 2 of us also rolled 20s. We had another out-of-character discussion to figure out what that meant, and we decided that there would be a direct attack on the conference, and that the head of the delegation from the house whose leader was just killed was in fact another assassin loyal to House Harkonnen. Back in character. An explosion rocked the conference center as a hidden bomb detonated just as the Harkonnen assassin had stepped out of the room, and a chase ensued. This led to a cat and mouse game as our house swordmaster chased the assassin into the nearby forest of alien fleshy trees. And that's where we ended the session. Damn, this is a fucking action.
Yeah.
Nice game, y'all. Okay, after the game, everyone was very excited about the new possibilities that opened up in the game, all of which were guided by a whole lot of terrible dice rolls. My takeaway: bad dice rolls are a great way to ratchet up the tension and drama of the scene. A bad dice roll on an information gathering roll can mean you learned something earth-shatteringly terrible, such as an adversary with resources 3 orders of magnitude above your own has you in their crosshairs, and that they're not afraid to act. What do you do? Happy gaming, everyone. Mike from New York State. Wow.
So I love this because it's a perfect example of it's not what you do, it's how you do it. Bless you, bless you.
Bless you, bless you.
So I just first of all want to say I love hearing this campaign stuff because I love the Dune Imperium board game, and I've never read the book or seen any of the movies. And so the fact that I actually understood everything that was going on is so amusing to me. I need to watch these movies because they look beautiful. And I love Denis Villeneuve, but at this point now it's become part of my identity that I like the board game, but I haven't seen the movies. Um, I love how kind of there is this, I want to say mature because I feel like there's an old school notion that a failure means no, and that everything should abruptly stop, damage should be dealt, and we should move on to the next role. And I feel like there is a modern understanding. I almost want to say a mature understanding because I've seen kids play RPGs and they very quickly fall into that like failure means no. And this is a clear example of failure being an opportunity to turn the screw of
Yeah.
the drama. This is not a kill everything, do damage to everybody kind of game. It's political intrigue. And so a failure means that politics worsens and the success means politics improves, or you're getting closer or further away from your agenda. I see unwritten clocks in this.
You love
And
a clock,
I
Mom.
love a clock
Oh,
and being on some kind of continuum between like success and failure requiring multiple roles. But like it's just a clear, explicit example of
Mm,
how when people fail a role, the GM is not responsible to figure it out. They stopped. They had an out of character discussion. You know, it sounds like the GM elicited, what do you think could be the worst thing that happened to your character? And the
mhm,
players submitted stuff that maybe the GM may not even have come up with,
mhm.
you
mm.
know? And everybody was satisfied by the swirling of the toilet bowl that this adventure became.
An action-packed.
That was not the metaphor I was expecting there, but
Wow,
okay.
it's so graphic and yet poetic.
Yeah, no, I love it. And I think this is a vital component to all tabletop RPGs. And like Mo said, I'm loving that it's becoming a
Yeah.
vital component of more modern RPG design. Is this failing forward or failing into more story
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
like the most important piece because like yeah, like I remember, like I don't play D&D very often, but especially when we played 4th edition, like and stuff like that in earlier editions, it would kind of, oh, you miss, oh, okay, and you're done until it comes around your turn again. It just
Mhm.
Right,
feels like
right.
you're like keep running into the wall until you finally get through the wall and you're like, okay, and you finally like Kool-Aid man into the next part of whatever you're
Right.
able to do.
And it's like, roll again. There's another wall.
Yeah, and you're just like, okay, now I have to get through this wall. And it's just so frustrating sometimes. And sometimes it's great and action packed, and a good table can still make it fun. But I think it's easier on everyone and it's more interesting when even if you're failing that there's more story being added. And I
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah,
love
yeah.
even though I am also not like the biggest fan of the 2D20 system, I do like that the stuff that Modivius has added into it as like their house system to add complications,
Mhm.
and you are able to like add dice by taking more threat and stuff like that. So there's some narrative control there, and also even if you bite it on your roll, like interesting things are still going to happen.
Mhm.
Right,
Even if they're not good things, they're interesting.
right, right.
Well, I want to respond to what both of you said and just add to that too. Is that I think um, I think there's a lot of power in hearing the word no, right?
Yeah.
Like when you fail, you fail. That there is something about that. But I think with that, the thing I want to add is, um, we often talk about the sort of the improv rule number one, yes and. You can embrace that with no. It's no and this happens.
Yeah.
The no
Yeah.
is not the stopping point. The no is the door that
Right,
just opened up, right?
right.
And it's interesting because I think that knowing that you screwed up is a fantastic opportunity for your character to actually reflect on.
Yeah.
This actually, I ran I this the campaign that John Inge ran here, the
Yeah.
Savage Worlds Aldgate Adventures. I had built a character who was this barbarian who was very hardy, very strong, very smashy. She was going to barrel through everything. I really kind of wanted just to build her to be kind of a stacked brick house, and what she does is she smashes and she does it well. And my idea was like she's this veteran who's gone through a lot of wars, and she gets shit done. And
My favorite.
and my rules were so abysmal, like from the get. And it was interesting because I was just like, well, what do I do with this? Because I can't go around being like I'm hot shit because clearly my rules are not responding to it. So what does the character feel? And so I started leaning into it, being like, well, she started out feeling like she's hot shit, and then she was just like, well, maybe I'm just used to like military campaigns, and doing this sort of mercenary work is a little different than what I expected. And then she keeps fucking up, and she's like, you know what? Maybe this is not the path for me. Maybe I'm
Right,
getting
right,
rusty.
right,
She's
right.
like, so I started kind of like experiencing like she really started to have these existential crises, and eventually she had a lot of like, butting heads with the characters because of other like story things. But it really was an interesting way to explore. Well, what happens when what you wanted the dice to do
Yeah.
doesn't happen? And honestly, it was like so much more compelling for me to like lean into, you know, bad dice rolls.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I love low stats. I love bad rolls. I could go on.
Yeah, I love when you do that though. Like, it's not just, oh, I must be tired that day. Like, after a while, if you're seeing a pattern, like building it into the psyche of the character.
Yeah.
Are they having doubts about like what are maybe like are what we're doing is right? Maybe I need to change my life path. Like, I love that complication, which that's one of the best parts of like tabletop and games that have these randomizers in them. Is
Yeah.
because like I also love like improv and like I play pretend with my daughter all the time and so like that's so fun. But there's something about that unexpected little thing that just can happen that you didn't plan for, that you didn't expect, even as the person being the character.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
adds so much to the experience and makes I really honestly think it's what makes these characters end up feeling so real. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Dice driven ennui. I love it. Um,
Yeah,
Yeah.
so good.
I just want to underline that just I'm a mechanics dude. This is a dice pool. It is no different than a D6 dice pool. It absolutely like you
I
can you
mean,
could you could be prejudiced against a D20, but essentially this is what Fortune and Dark does. You kind of burn stress to get dice, you get a devil's bargain to get dice on a they got everything flipped around, but you get to roll a bunch of dice and that determines your success or failure.
Mm.
And
right, but the bell curves and the math involved and how the severity of rolls
yeah,
changes significantly between a D6 bell curve and a D20 bell curve.
but when you add multiple ones,
It's still
they start kind of getting coming closer together because
mm,
you're looking for a number of successes like that's different. That reminds me of what's the Native American game, Coyote and Crow, which is
mm,
doing a similar thing with D12s. I found it very satisfying to roll 10
yeah.
D12s
Oh
to
yeah.
see if I could get five successes.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Well,
yeah, no dice discrimination.
I know. Well, actually, I actually think that Mo, that's something that you just made me think about is even if you are playing something that's like has a binary approach to it, like like D&D or something that just has a roll to see if you succeed. There is something in building in just thinking around what happens when you fail. Like, for example, like this system, like it just is with Forged in Dark, seems to lean into the idea of like, hey, take a chance, risk it.
Right,
Up
right,
the
right,
ante.
right,
You
right,
might
right.
screw it up, but because it's already kind of expressly saying that, it's sort of saying this game is about you sometimes dealing with the consequences, the bad
Oh,
consequences.
absolutely. You're
And so,
you're not even characters. You're scoundrels and
yes,
bad. You do bad things, and bad things will happen to
will
you.
happen to you. That's right.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah,
crime does not pay, kids. Okay, you heard
yeah.
it here first. It's never been said before. Trademark me. But what I wanted to say is that you could build in that kind of thinking about what happens when you screw things up in really kind of generic traditional games as well. It's just that I think there's a lot of thinking about the game moves forward when I succeed, but nothing happens when I fail.
Right,
Right.
right.
And so I think there is something about like what you were kind of saying before, like this metaphor of like we Kool-Aid man through one wall and then Mo said, and then there's suddenly another wall to Kool-Aid man through.
Yeah.
So there is something about thinking about like, oh, you shot your arrow and you missed. Like I did this with uh oh, by the way, just another huge shout out, Kimmy. I just wanted to say thank you again for that for the fantastic opportunity to run What About Bob's, the
Oh,
mouse
it's
shooting
so
game
The
here.
thank you
It's
Bobs.
for
such a
doing
blast.
it.
What a lovely cast. Um, yeah, just really appreciate it. And I'm bringing it up because early on I started introducing this concept of sort of saying, hey, gang. All of our characters have low stats. The probability is that you guys are not going to succeed at a lot of things. I want to add a narrative element to what happens when you guys don't succeed because, yeah, as rules is written, it's not really telling us that we need to do anything with the fact that you failed. You just fail and then what happens next is up to us, right? So, but as rules is written, it's just sort of as a pass-fail, right? And I introduced this idea of just kind of going, you describe, and I mentioned this, I think, on another episode, but you describe how things get fucked up if you screw up. Like, you tell me, like, before you roll, tell me what's at stake. And that right away puts you in mind. And you could do this with Dungeons and Dragons. You could do this Pathfinder. You could do it with all these traditional games. You could say, hey, before you roll, just so we know what's at stake, what happens? Describe to me what happens when you don't succeed on this. And then that already propels the game into this like mode of driving the plot forward. You know, when you inadvertently do fail, right? And when you succeed, you kind of go, oh my god, the consequences that I just made up before. Why did I?
Right,
You know,
right.
yeah.
And it's not the GM's fault.
It's not GM, but I also think that there's something about that. The practice of that is a muscle you need to build up, because a lot of, I think, games are, at least older games, are written with the idea of like, the story only,
dictator.
like the story only moves forward when you succeed, right? And like, so I think it's a muscle to develop, of like how to prime your brain and your player's brain about failure means the story keeps moving in a different direction rather than stop.
Also, I want to apologize. At the top of the show, I said the wrong topic for Mike. Mike had sent in a couple emails, and I picked a different one, and I typed up the show notes for it. And then, like, when I was looking at the flow of our emails, I switched it out, and I forgot to update it at the top of the show. So, yeah, sorry. We'll have Mike's story about how he got into TTRPGs another day.
Oh.
This was his success story with, like, how dice enrich enrich games.
Got it.
We also just talked about it. So yeah, people are gonna be like, oh, this is the first game, and then they'll be like, no, Kimmy just screwed up. It's fine. Mailbag number 3 from the archive.
Kimmy did everything great.
Everything so good. Mailbag number 3 from the archive 2020. Hey ho, Jackers. Follow your podcast. I found your podcast sometime last week, and I've since burned through a staggering number of episodes. I just reached season 25 as of writing this. Quarantine, am I right? 2020.
Oh, yeah.
I write to you because I have just started a masks campaign, and my read of that system really benefits from a strong cast of well-characterized NPCs. Question: what can I, a non-actor with minimal experience, do to portray my characters in a way that players will connect with? Answer in the form of a bulleted list, if possible. Many thanks. Chris from New Jersey. I feel attacked. Like, this is not meant to attack me, but, like, I literally make lists for everything. Like, it's a joke with my, like, teaching partners and stuff. It's like, I feel we should do these things, and it's like a bulleted list. This is just how my brain works. So, Chris from New Jersey, you didn't know you called me out, but you called me out.
You're like, triggered.
P.S. I have tried incorporating some of the advice you gave on fleshing out locations, like condensing characters to single sentences, and or thinking of details which suggest but don't outright reveal things about characters to make success in various one-shots. But I'm still nervous about the results in a longer campaign. PPS, imbibe.
Cheers.
Thank you, Chris from New Jersey. Hopefully you still listen.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Another banger. Another great question.
Yeah. Super good. Yeah, I feel like, okay. So especially with the popularity now of actual plays, I feel like there's this expectation on people to be a thespian and be an actor and have your NPCs be like, and that is not necessary in any way, especially for home games. Like, if you're not trying to get a bunch of people to watch on Twitch, like, just have fun. But I don't know.
Yeah, it's funny. Our mutual friend Greg Hellings was with him, and I were joking around about this, and he was like, "Yeah, I just feel like sometimes when I'm playing with people who you could see they've really been influenced by actual plays, like they all think that they're like trying to win an award, and I'm like, yeah, like they're trying to win an Oscar." He's like, typically it's a BAFTA. They're doing a lot of British accents.
As somebody who is not great at a bunch of accents and stuff, I tend to run games that are particularly intimate. You know, me and a design partner were playtesting a game, and we ran like 40 different playtests, and we split them up. And I was constantly astounded as how they would introduce like 20 NPCs into a game, and I would introduce 3, and I would like just leaned toward making games that were just a lot more intimate, a lot more personal, a lot less, cast of hundreds, and a lot less Berkeley Busby, like everybody's coming in and out of the shot, and much more like single cam indie film.
Mhm.
And um you have a lot of options that aren't limited to as Artem, I think. When I read this at first, I was like, is this about APs? But like, kind of APs influence everything now.
Mm-hmm.
And um, it doesn't mean you have to have 20 NPCs. Um, I usually show up with 10 names, and NPCs get names as the PCs pick them.
Mm-hmm.
And if the PCs don't pick them, I don't waste a name on them. Because
That's fair.
sometimes you show up with an NPC you can't wait to play, and the PCs don't care about that person.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So,
Good.
yeah.
Yeah.
I think the first way, like, yeah, absolutely, list of names is a must, because otherwise all my characters will have the same like 3 names, because those are the only ones I can think of when it gets to be time.
Yep, yep.
And it's usually like, don't think, oh, don't be that name, don't be that's literally the other name. Okay, you are Steve. This
That's
is
right.
Steve.
Everybody's Bob, you know.
Yeah, exactly. But I also think like just describing the character, like describe the character differently. You don't have to be like really theatrical or overdone. Just talk about how they look different than other people, or how they look the same. Maybe I think that is the biggest thing, is describing them in a way that is memorable,
Mm.
so that, and having a name, so that the players can kind of tap back into that thought of them, that picture of them, or have an actual picture there. Like, you might as well do that too. Because I think that more than anything else, like most of the time, like even when I'm playing like home games and stuff, we don't always do like different voices for everything. I
Mm.
describe them, and if they're important, I might try, but I also don't do great accents either. I've got Valley Girl, I've got Southern, which kind of flips on and off, and I have what is vaguely Russian and
Right.
sounds more like Moose and Squirrel. Those are like my three. I've got that, and sometimes Irish, depending. I mean,
Everybody's got an ambiguously Soviet accent.
yeah,
You
yeah,
know,
yeah. That's the
listen.
one. But
If you think you can't do it, you can.
you can just say Moose and Squirrel, and if you are of an age, you will understand, and it just kind of clicks in.
Yep. Yep.
But yeah, so I mean, I think that is the most important thing, is just having a way for to differentiate them, and just jot some things down so you can repeat that again if they run into them again later. Oh, they're still wearing their funny hat,
Yep.
or like whatever it is. Especially when you think about like children's books, for example. A lot of times illustrators for children's books use the same person for all the characters, if you really look at their art style, and then they're just wearing different colors, or they have a hat, or they have different hair. Like, you'd
Right.
be amazed, especially if you look at the really old school like golden books and stuff. It's like all the same child, but this one is wearing a dress, so it must be a girl, because obviously, and this one must be a boy, because that's what they thought in the 50s. It's like,
That, that
so
describes me and Artem. We're the same
you are
person, but we have
exactly,
different hair.
yeah.
That's all. That's all.
So I mean, that is enough for most people to like differentiate visually between. So give them like one thing you describe that is unique and memorable, and then that'll just be like their touchstone when they come back and meet that person
Yeah.
again.
I think both of you touched on something really important. I think in terms of, yeah, you can drive yourself nuts over preparing for something like this, and then there's like the fact that like whatever you prepare that has not been interacted with doesn't really exist.
Yeah.
It
Mhm.
just doesn't exist. You might have your backlog, but if the players never meet, Steve the tavern owner from the town over, Steve doesn't exist. You know what I mean? And it is, there's something about the remembering that, like, yeah, you want to have fun too. You don't want to get bogged down in just
Right.
sort of thinking about these things ahead of time. The other thing that I wanted to kind of respond to is, like, yeah, I think actual plays have absolutely shifted the way people think about games in general, but definitely the big dragon game. if you think about someone.
You can say names. It's okay.
There's a dragon.
We don't have sponsorships. We don't have any
actually, I
admin.
already said There's a Dragon several times before.
Yeah.
I don't know why I just said it in the Dragon game.
That should not be named.
Yeah.
It should have been.
If we say Matt Mercer, he does not appear randomly.
Right. If we say Matt Mercer 3 times,
Matt Mercer. Yeah, no.
he did not appear.
No,
There you go.
just like
We tested it. But if you're playing D&D before, or any of these role-playing games before, before the advent of the actual play, I don't think you were thinking about performing it. You were thinking about cracking up your friends. You were maybe thinking about getting a reaction from the people at the table.
Yeah.
You might have been the odd person who was like, well, I didn't get the part in the school play, so I'm going to really pour my fucking heart into this, this voice here, and you're really going to see my preparation. I think that there is...
I feel so attacked right now.
I'm so sorry. But I think actual plays is really... I think they really kind of changed the way people think they have to prepare for these games, and I just feel like, me personally, coming from a theater background and having done a ton of theater, I personally feel like when I like doing little characters, I like doing little voices, I don't think it's important.
Yeah.
I just don't. I would recommend for anybody who's looking for stuff, I would recommend Sly Flourish's Return of the Lazy Dungeon Master.
Yeah.
He's got really great points about preparing only what you're going to need, but also in terms of preparing characters, and it's the way I think about characters, like, make a list of, Tony Soprano, the mom from Tony, the grandmother from Tony Soprano. Like, you just have like an image of that character, and the halfling, cleric who's at the forge is Tony Soprano. Great, give her that voice. It's change genders, flip around. But there's like you have probably a bunch of characters you really love in pop culture. Make it easy for yourself, and you don't have to do the voice. Just thinking about those characters, I think, will bring the core of what that person is about.
Absolutely.
And that's kind of really all you're looking for. Like you said, like Kimmy, so another good way I think also to prepare is to think about things that aren't, like you mentioned, that aren't the way they sound, but the way you would describe them.
Yeah.
There's a podcast to listen to sometimes called Talking About Dragons and Shit with Aaron M. Evans, who's a really great fantasy writer, and B. Dave Walters. And B. Dave Walters had this really great quote. He's like, he's also a writer, and he's like, I described somebody in my book as she was the most beautiful woman you've ever seen. Everybody's going to have a different idea of what the most beautiful person ever seen. Right. And that's a great way to describe an NPC. This person smelled worse than anything you've ever smelled before. Okay, great. Let me think about what my character is for them is the worst, Yeah, that's kind of my like a random bits of advice there. But yeah, I think the big part is you don't have to do an accent, or if you're doing an accent, don't do a culture inappropriate accent. And if you're gonna do an accent and you're gonna be bad about it, feel free to say I'm terrible about this. What about Bob's? I kept saying I can't really do a British accent. My Jeremy Irons is gonna sound insane, and he did, and he was.
I love that you brought up the Tony Soprano thing though.
Yeah,
because that is like one of my like absolute go-tos, especially when we were doing the One Ring campaign. We were meeting. Like, you'd roll in the journey mechanic there, you roll and you randomly meet people and you have no idea. It's part of the game. Like, you have a happy encounter with someone on the road or something. It's like, oh, we're having a happy encounter with someone on the road. We rolled it on that table. Okay. So, like, you'd come up with things. And it was, like, I would pull, like, stuff all the time. And, like, mobsters are one of my go-tos. It wasn't for that game, but definitely done that. Right. The Sopranos is something I pull from. Just like all these different things I have.
The Wire has really memorable characters. Breaking Bad, all of these. There's so many character-driven things.
Yeah, Star Trek. Like, oh my gosh, so many writers.
I feel like you're gonna run a dangerous game, Artem.
Yeah, seriously.
Actually, you used to make me think about Tony Soprano. Like, every time you run into somebody mean, that you immediately click into Tony Soprano. It made me think of in Pokemon when they travel around. It's Nurse Joy looks the same everywhere, but it's just that Nurse Joy has a lot of sisters and they all look the same.
Yeah.
But maybe in your campaign, then instead of Nurse Joy, it's just a lot of Tony Sopranos.
Yeah.
I usually also keep a list of I'm going to call it energy, where
vibes.
Like vibes. Where it's like, I can just kind of look at a list and say, this person's going to give this vibe. And it often helps me to, again, I'm not great at accents, but help distinguish between the NPCs as the players are talking to them. And so if somebody is glowing, they might be the villain. If somebody is mean and gruff, they might have a long day. And it just helps me to
Hmm.
just kind of stay on top of things because you know, I hung around the theater kids for all the wrong reasons, not because I wanted to be an actor.
What are the wrong reasons?
Oh, that's where the
I'm
cute girls
curious.
were.
Oh yeah, 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 definitely. Number
But
of women outnumbering men and that in dance
It
all the
it, it
time.
it it was a great space to be in,
Yeah,
um, as a
but
young man.
but energy and vibes, I think, is very
Energy and
yeah,
vibes.
I
definitely,
think it's good.
definitely.
I'm doing that right now with Starscape. I'm writing it in a couple of different voices and coming up with like characters for the voices. And one of the ones I picked is the God, what's her name? Uh, she's the captain from Treasure Planets,
Uh
like
huh.
the squirrel cat lady. Who's I don't
Mm.
know. It's very specific callback, but she's the amazing captain on the ship. And yeah, I don't know. She's fantastic. But if you haven't seen that movie, it's a like Lost, like the last of like the good like old fashioned 2D animation. It's not a blockbuster by any stretch of the imagination, but it's a very good movie.
It's a classic, yeah.
Yeah,
I think it
but
was before the Don Blue films, huh?
I think so. Yeah,
Hmm.
I don't.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, if I can throw one more recommendation for getting your mind out of oh, I have to sound like Matt Mercer and I have to be I,
Captain Amelia.
oh,
Yes, yes.
nice.
Yes.
Oh, but yeah, for people who are trying to figure out how to pull off
Emma Thompson.
different characters, you kind of leading into that idea of energies. There's a really good actual play podcast called Mystery Quest with a bunch of
Oh yeah.
from Pickaxe Games, and they're a UK outfit. But the GM is great. He's got what me and my friend likes to joke about, like he's only got three voices. He's got the oh yes, I'm very concerned, I'm like this, and the oh really, I don't know, and just his standard voice. Like he's
Yeah.
got three voices, and they play every type of game, and he just brings us three voices.
Yep.
It doesn't matter that he just did Call of Cthulhu and he did three voices. He's
Yeah.
gonna do Mothership. He's gonna do three. You know what I mean? It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's I think that that's a mentality I like. I only have three voices, and you're gonna get them. That's
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
Absolutely. And yeah, I mean, not even doing a voice, but just changing how quickly or slowly you're talking can be
Yep.
huge.
Yep.
Like,
Yep.
oh, well, I think that's okay. That's very interesting.
Mm.
Like, and then, oh, I think that's okay. That's very interesting. Okay,
Hmm.
like literally the only thing that changed was like how fast I was talking about things, and so it's like you can do things that aren't accents that aren't super, but like still differentiate the characters slightly. And
Yeah.
I
Okay.
think that
Okay.
I like that's what I like that's what you were kind of describing there. He's got those three voices, but even them, it's his voice, but just kind of the cadence or just the slight tweak of like word choices.
Totally. I'm doing this voice for he was in my previous game. This voice was the manager of the company. In this game, the voice is the AI. It's that's right. He's changing the cadence, but the vocal inflection is the same.
Yeah.
So we had homework, right? We were supposed to make a list. So we have cadence,
Cadence,
Cadence.
we have energy,
Yep.
energy,
we
vibes,
have
yeah.
actor archetypes,
Mm.
uh,
Not well, like character
Character
archetypes.
archetypes.
Yeah,
character archetypes.
yeah. That's like the
From Tony Soprano to Nurse Joy.
yeah.
Yes. Um, and
And just describe them
and description, yeah.
yeah,
Description. Yeah.
I like how you were saying the most beautiful person. The person smells like garbage. Like those descriptions. They if a person smells like garbage, they carry themselves a certain way. If a person is the most beautiful person you've ever seen, they carry themselves a certain way.
yeah.
You know.
Definitely give them something unique though, because as someone who struggles with names a lot,
Hmm.
like
Yeah.
even if I'm taking notes, I'm gonna be like, oh, this is Amalthea, who we met. I'm like, the one with the giant bow on her head. Oh,
Yeah.
got it. Now I know everything about her. I can tell you like her
Yes.
boyfriend's son's name and like when they met and what color her eyes are and what like zodiac sign she is. Like
Yeah.
literally the bow is like what does it.
And
This
how many
is
times do you introduce Amelthea and 3 games later it's Melly?
Yeah.
You know.
No, but that's a brilliant piece of advice for the GM to kind of keep in the back of your mind, like, what's going to make me actually trigger the memory of who this person is?
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, they've got a
And it
they've got a big
and
bow.
Or
Yeah.
if the
tattoo
piece
or whatever.
if the PCs change it, just go with it. Like
Mhm.
don't stress.
Yeah. All right.
Good.
Are
Good
we
bullets. Good bullets. Those
Good,
are
good,
bullet
good.
points.
Yeah, we did a sort of a list at the end. We cobbled it together. Good job. Good save there, Mo. Good save. All right. Thank you for joining us for season 35, episode 12 of the Happy Jacks RPG podcast. Please support our amazing indie designer of the month, Jess from Wannabe Games. You can find her amazing stuff at wannabegames.itch.io. Thanks to our chat mod, James V, and to our amazing Patreons who keep us ad-free and independent. You can join their ranks at happyjacks.org/Patreon. And again, like, we don't do sponsorships, we don't do paid games, we don't do ads of any type, we don't get paid for reviews. We do the Indie Designer of the Month because we think indie games are important. So all the money from Patreon goes to keeping the lights on here and keeping the mini fridge full, replacing equipment when we need it, sometimes upgrades. But it's summer's coming, and we run the air conditioning a lot in the summer. So yes,
It's necessary.
it's necessary.
We
It's very
appreciate it.
necessary. It gets very hot. So yeah, if you feel like you'd like to support us, we'd really appreciate it. If you're currently supporting us, we really, really appreciate it. So thank you all so much. My name is Kimmy.
My name is Artem.
My name is Mo. You can see some of my stuff at ashyfeet.com.
Amazing. What have you been doing lately, Mo? I feel like you have a thing you need to tell us about.
Oh, I did. A lot. Some of you know that I'm a big fan of Blades in the Dark and the Forge in the Dark system. I
And
made a
clocks, evidently, as you mentioned like 5 times in this
and
episode.
clocks all day.
Yeah. Mo owns a lot of watches.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I made a board game themed after Blades in the Dark that the people from Evil Hat really, really dig. It is not in affiliation with Evil Hat, but they liked it. They told
Yeah.
people that it was good,
Oh.
and I kickstarted it, and I
And,
funded, and
it's
um,
called, what's the game called,
called
Mo?
Dark Heists.
Yeah.
And now I am with many Americans, and we were talking about toilet bowls flushing in the swirl of so what are the tariffs again?
Oh.
So
Oh. Yeah, I feel you in Kickstarter stress and like heart hurting.
Mm.
Oh,
Yeah.
so yeah, that's what I've been up to for the last little while, and
Amazing.
many people in the community have supported. Thank you so much. If you're interested in a board game version of being spooky and doing spooky crimes and hanging out with spooky people, corrupt monsters, and cops on a payroll.
Yeah, it's extremely fun, and I had the pleasure of helping Mo out a little bit, and
Yeah.
it just it's a blast. I'm very excited about it, and I'm very proud of you, Mo. I think it's awesome.
At
oh.
many moments, Artem was the adult supervision. So
Wow.
thank you, Artem.
Dire Straits. All right, hey.
Artem and I both have the same reaction of wow.
For the first time in my life, I've been the adult in a situation. Well, thank you. Speaking of doing very adult things, I sometimes eat sandwiches and talk about scary movies.
Yeah.
I have a podcast called Scary Movie and a Sandwich. I'm filming a couple of episodes tomorrow. Actually, one of my episodes tomorrow is going to be with Kai. Our dear darling Kai, and Mo's going to be on an episode sometime soon. But yeah,
Lies.
Oh, I'm gonna get you in there, sir. To talk Frankenstein, because this is
Yes.
another thing Mo is extremely passionate about. If people didn't know, but that's just a little tease. It's just
That's
teasing
a
a little bit.
whole nother podcast.
That's a whole other side of Mo. He loves clocks and he loves Frankenstein. That's all you need to know. But yeah, Scary Movie and a Sandwich. Check me out on all your listening entertainment apps and also on YouTube. I'm gonna have a bunch of new episodes coming out, I think probably around May, but right now I'm in the process of editing a whole ton of stuff, so it's rad. It's very fun. If you like sandwiches, this show's for you. If you like scary movies, show's for you. If you like them both, wow, amazing. Welcome.
Amazing.
If you like
Same.
Artem.
Yeah, I was gonna say I
Hey.
like Artem. So Awesome. Yeah, and I'm Kimmy. You can find me at Golden Lasso Girl or Golden Lasso Games or at happyjacksrpg, only on Blue Sky. My games are at goldenlassogames.com. And yeah, I'm mostly here. Only here.
Woo! Yeah!
All right. Today we are going to leave you with a song called Finnegan's Wake by the world famous Poxy Boggards. You can find them at poxyboggards.com. Also, if you live in Southern California, the world famous Renaissance Fair is back and open today. We are recording on April 5th. So a bunch of our cast and crew is there. If you go by Rogues Reef and be like, hey, are any of you with Happy Jacks? Like, they'll be like, hey, yeah, like Claire's there and Ingy's there. And
Joey's there.
Joey's there, and a bunch of people are there. A bunch of the old school people are still
Is
there.
Stu there?
Stu's there, absolutely, I promise. Stork is there. Dave is there almost every day too. Like so many people there. It makes my scheduling during fair really stressful and hard, but I love that they do it, and it's great. So anyway, again, Finnegan's Wake by the world famous Poxy Boggards. Thank you all so much. We will see you all next week. Bye.
Bye.
Tim Finnegan lived in Waltham Street, a gentle Irishman, mighty odd. He'd a beautiful brogue, both rich and sweet, and a rise in the world he carried on. Tim had a sword, temper, temple and way, when the love for the liquor poor Tim was born. Send him on his way each day, he'd a drop for the crater every morn. What for you on a dance to your partner, round the floor you try to shake. Wasn't it the truth, I tell you, lots of fun at Finnegan's Wake. Hey! One morning Tim felt rather full, his head felt heavy and it made him shake. He fell off the ladder and broke his skull, they carried him home, his corpse awake. They wrapped him up in a nice clean sheet and laid him out upon the bed, with a bucket of whiskey at his feet and a barrel of porter at his head. What for you on a dance to your partner, round the floor you try to shake. Wasn't it the truth, I tell you, lots of fun at Finnegan's Wake. Hey! Friends assembled at the wake and the widow Finnegan called for lunch. First they brung out tea and cakes, then pipes, tobacco and whiskey punch. Biddy McGuire began to cry, such a lovely corpse did you ever see? Tim aboard, why'd you die? Would you hold your gob, says Molly McGee. What for you on a dance to your partner, round the floor you trotter shake. Wasn't it the truth, I tell you, lots of fun at Finnegan's Wake. Hey! Mary Murph takes up the job and Biddy says you're wrong, I'm sure. Biddy fetched her a belt in the gob that left her sprawling on the floor. Then the war did soon engage, was woman to woman and man to man. Shillelagh law was all the rage and a row and a ruction soon began. Whack for you on, now dance to your partner, round the floor you trotter shake. Wasn't it the truth, I tell you, lots of fun at Finnegan's Wake. Hey! Put it on and dance to your partner, round the floor you trotter shake. Wasn't it the truth, I tell you, lots of fun at Finnegan's Wake. Hey! Mickey Maloney ducks his head when a noggin of whiskey flies at him. It hiss and lands upon the bed, the liquor scatter on over Tim. The liquor revives him and see how he rises. Timothy rising up from the bed, said swirl your whiskey around like blazes. Thunder and Jesus, do you think I'm dead? Put it on and dance to your partner, round the floor you trotter shake. Wasn't it the truth, I tell you, lots of fun at Finnegan's Wake. Whack for it on now, dance to your partner, round the floor you trotter shake. Wasn't it the truth, I tell you, lots of fun at Finnegan's Wake. Hey!